Hi there, my name is Aaron Short. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. We're here at 7 p.m. today in New York City, and today is Monday, May 25th, 2020. My guest is with us from Australia, and it's much earlier in the morning. I believe they're in the future as well. Is that right, Miles? How are you doing today?
Yeah, that's it. Very good. Yeah, it's 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So, yeah.
It's always fun to think about you being in the future there. Miles Jackson, Cole Clark Guitars CEO. This is awesome. I do a lot of talking on my channel about pickups, and your pickup is world famous, and you've recently added the Humbucker pickup to it as well. So we've got a lot to talk about. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining us, and please feel free to ask your questions as we go as well. To start with, I'd like to ask about you. Where are you from originally? Do you play the guitar? What's your musical background?
Yeah, look, I was brought up in Melbourne and played guitar, and started working in music shops when I was 17. So that was in 1979, and have been in retail, have done distribution, have done international sales, have done and now manufacturing. So been involved in music products all my life. I've worked extensively in Australia, but also did a stint in London. Worked at Rose Morris in London for a little bit. Had great fun over there as a mid-20s Australian traveller. Tends to do. So I've had a great, it's a fantastic life, just, being involved in the product industry.
What year were you in England? Because I'm from England originally, as you can tell from the accent.
Yeah, 88.
Okay. Yeah,
88, 87, 88, 89, that period in there, but yeah, mainly 88. Yeah, so...
I was there 2001, so we didn't cross paths then.
No.
So what about guitars then? Did you play guitar growing up? Did you have interest in guitars at all?
Yeah. So I started playing guitar in 2000 in early 70s, late 60s. So when I was it would have been early 70s. So I was sort of 10 or 11, and I was never very good, so I got in the product industries. But I certainly enjoy it and always have enjoyed it. And so I think the music products industry is full of people who would if they could, but then they end up in the other side of it. But So I've played all my life. Yeah.
It may be a strange question, but I've interviewed several CEOs of guitar companies now, and some people play guitar, some people don't. It's just interesting to know what the background is. We have Chris Decker watching from Brooklyn, New York. He says hi, and we have Jack the Rabbit who says, "Just got my Cole Clark Angel 2 Redwood Blackwood, and I am in love with this guitar." Hi, Aaron Short. Hi, Jack the Rabbit. So you got a new customer in the room as well. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your business. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So this is an interesting story. Growing up, well, I didn't grow up in London, but I gigged in London, and there's lots of Australians in London, and they would also always talk about Australian guitars. So I heard the name Cole Clark a lot, and let's talk about how the company was created. Because it's a fairly new company, right? What year was it created?
Well, 2001 it was created. The first acoustics hit the street in 2003, mid-2003. So it was created by Adam Cole and Brad Clark, who were at Maton. Brad was the CEO of Maton at the time. He wanted to make a different guitar made with a Spanish heel. So it would be a different sounding 12 steel string. Like Spanish nylon string guitars, of course, are all made with a Spanish heel, but everyone sort of makes guitars the way Martin do, which is a great way of making guitars, but it's not the only way. So we make it with a Spanish heel. So he wanted to do that. He also held the patent for a drum sensor, which we use on the face to pick up as a face sensor. And so he held the patent of that and wanted to use that patent. Maton did not want to do the project, so he left. And started Cole Clark with him and Adam and a group of investors, of which I was one of those investors. So I was involved from day one as a hands-off investor and resource to go to, advice on the retail stroke distribution side of the industry, because they were firmly in the manufacturing side of things. So yeah.
That's very interesting. So they left the company because they wouldn't move ahead with their vision, so they made their own company to proceed with that. Is that correct? Am I right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So when you came on board, you've been there from the beginning as an investor then. So how did you meet those guys, and what were the initial conversations like?
Brad played in a band called Mannequins back in the 80s, and so I met him in, I think it was 84, and I just knew him as a musician and a customer from the retail store that I was in, and we were reasonable friends. And then when he started Cole Clark, he needed investors, so he got a group of people together, not just about money. It was about having experts in various things. So there's people who are experts in, CAD CAM, in CNC, in factory, running factories, etc. So different people in different fields, toolmaker, and all that stuff. Yeah.
And let's talk more about the vision then. So the Spanish heel, I've noticed the choice of woods you use are different to obviously the Martin type woods and those things. So what's the reason for this? Why the Spanish heel exactly, and the wood choices that he wanted to use for these guitars?
So, well, for a start on the Spanish heel, a Spanish heel gives you a totally different acoustic sound, and if you're going to be, it sounds different to an attached neck. And in fact, I've picked up Spanish-made steel strings at trade fairs, and that they're made very much everything else, the woods, the bracing, and everything would be like a Martin, but I strum it and it sounds like a Cole Clark. It's a different character. It's not better or worse. It's different. And there's a lot of people. Well, everybody else in the steel string market basically copies the way Martin makes guitars and makes some changes. Might have some slightly different bracing, maybe some slightly different timbers, different philosophies around it, but that attached neck, mainly X'd brace, gives you a particular sound. The bracing doesn't change the character of the sound, it's the neck join. So you can change all the bracing and it'll retain the character. Now I've got guitars, I play guitars, and like every guitarist, I own multiple guitars, and they're all good for different things. So, a lot of guitarists would have, 5, 10, 15 guitars, and they'll cover different things. And that's, we have a different palette to other people. So we go into a shop and say, we've got an acoustic guitar. We'd like you to stock this acoustic guitar. And the initial thing is, well, I've got 10 brands, what's this going to do? Well, it does something that is actually those 10 are made very similar to each other. Ours is totally different and it sounds different. So the whole made different to sound different is very relevant.
I guess the point I'm trying to get at is that obviously Bradley Clark was known for his electronics. Was this guitar built around the electronics, or was he thinking about acoustic guitars, stage guitars, or both in the early days? Do you know what the thought process was there?
Well, for a start, Brad Clark is an engineer, and Brad was first and foremost an inventor. So he was largely responsible for moving Maton into CNC technology, and so as a guitar builder, that was first and foremost. So this is equally as important pickup, and like this wasn't a pickup company and let's throw a guitar at this. This is a unique pickup idea, patented, and then add and build a unique guitar as well. So part of we build a whole answer. Like we believe, and our artists would believe, that our pickup is the most natural pickup on the planet. But you put it into another guitar, it doesn't sound quite as good as it does in a Cole Clark. The Spanish heel keeps a very clean piano-like bottom end, and when you amplify that, it really makes a difference to the sound. So it's not just a matter of put this pickup in any guitar and it's going to sound like that. It is very much it's a holistic approach. Like to fit you can't virtually fit our pickup in a guitar unless it's built in, and there's many parts of it, many aspects of that. So it is not like most people build a guitar and they concentrate on a really fine acoustic guitar, and then they go, right, where's our OEM manufacturer? Let's get a pickup. Let's put a pickup in. Great, job done. Yeah. That's the normal thing. That is not the case. This is built with equal part as the acoustic guitar is really important. It's really important. It's different. Really important. It's really good. The pickup is incredibly important. And as far as an opening to the market, it's like how many great acoustic guitars out there? Hundreds. How many great acoustic guitars with pickups that sound like an acoustic guitar plugged in? Very few. So that's the market opportunity, but we certainly don't back away from the acoustic. Many people buy our guitars for the acoustic sound because it's different and it suits their playing style.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting approach. The reason I got into the pickup thing is I was trying to make my acoustic guitars sound great on stage, and lately I've seen a lot of people going more towards stage guitars because they are built for that purpose. If you're going to play on a stage, why not have a guitar that was made for that job? So I've seen that happening a lot lately. Having said that, then let's talk about the pickup. I mean, there's 3 pickups in there, right? Which is interesting. Most pickups I review have 1 or 2 sources. Yours has 3, and some of yours now have 4, which we'll get to later. But the actual 3-way pickup, can you talk us through how it works and what the 3 different elements are?
Sure. So the thing about a piezo pickup, most pickups on the planet are piezo based. So you've got a piezo under the bridge saddle. Piezos actually sound really good in the bottom end, really natural, really clean, powerful. So piezo in the bottom end is great. In the mid range, it sounds like a bit quacky and pingy in the top end. So it loses that natural, sounds electronic in that mid range and high end. So the challenge is to get rid of that electronic sound. So most people put a microphone in that mid-range to high end. Now, where it starts getting a bit nasty is around about 350 hertz. So you put a microphone in at 350 hertz, and the big feedback zone on any acoustic guitar is about 400 to 500 hertz. So you bang in the middle of that, and your guitar is going to feed back once it gets on stage. In the studio or a quiet environment, that's fine. So you get on stage with your guitar that's got a piezo and a microphone, and it feeds back on stage. So what Brad invented was a phase sensor, which has piezos in it and a block of wood, and it compresses onto a footing, and that is mounted on an integral brace, and that phase sensor picks up the mid-range and high end, and doesn't feed back any more than the piezo will. So we roll that in at 350 hertz. It gives you a natural mid and high, and the bottom end is taken care of by the piezo system. And then the microphone, the third element is the microphone. That comes in at 2.5 kilohertz. So that is coming in above the feedback zone, so that it won't feed back, and it's purely taking the ping out of the piezo. It's not giving you, it's not trying to be the main sound. Whereas people think about a microphone being the main sound, it's not. So, and another little thing about this, of course, the phase sensor makes the whole guitar live. It picks up, you can flick the neck, flick the headstock, rub the strings. It's picking up all of that. Rub the face anywhere, it's picking that up. Tap the face, incredible. So all those people who tap guitars and all that it just works really well. And that's not what we set out to do, but that's a byproduct of that. So, so that's the principle behind the preamp, is to have the right element at the right part, a bit like a sound system where you've got a sub, a mid-range box, and a horn. You put subs through a horn, it's going to sound terrible. Put super high end through the mid box, it's not going to sound right. So each thing is doing its thing. So that's how it works.
It's very clever, because what I've come from reviewing lots of pickups, I've come to realize that the undersaddle gives you that direct, that awesome low end, and the body sensor pickups like the K&K are awesome, but they can feed back, but they're great for body sounds. And the microphones can be great, but they can feedback and squeal, but they're great for the high end. So you've taken the three kind of pickups that I review on here, apart from the magnetic, that's kind of all of them, and put them into the guitar and given them the best of each element. Now, so you're using crossovers, right? The undersaddle is just the bass. Okay, so that's really clever too, because not many people are doing that. So this is a great, on paper it's a great system, and I've played it. It's a great system. It's one of the best first-party systems out there. So has there been any development in the system since those guys moved on? Like, are you still researching and improving the system? Have there been any changes, any noticeable changes since the beginning, or is it still the same design that those guys created?
There is lots of R&D, lots of things for the future, and that will come out in time.
Oh no, you're killing me.
That's it.
Well, you haven't got to answer it, but I have to bring this question up because everyone now is talking about. I say at NAMM there's always a hot topic. So the year I met you, you had the Humbucker, and that was like humbuckers and electrics. I saw 3 guitars doing that. It was like that was the thing like that year. And getting distortion on your acoustic. The NAMM just come. It was IRs. It was impulse responses, because we're all playing Kempers, Helix, Fractal, and then you've got the Aura, which was very innovative. You've got the Tone Dexter, which is a great pedal, and you've got the Bags Soundscape that's coming out soon. So the hot topic this year for me, in my opinion, is impulse responses, IRs. So is that something you're looking into?
Okay, what we want to do is to have a natural sound of the guitar with a huge dynamic range, so which is not limited. Now we have found that we delved into digital. The dynamic response, the dynamic range out of analog is, to us at the moment, better than we can get out of anything else. Now it's a bit like, back in the back before electricity, in the mid '80s, they invented sampling technology on digital pianos. So the first digital piano came out with a real, inverted commas, real piano sound, and that was great. Well, from then on, everything else was real. It was just what version of real. It was like, okay, this is a higher sampling rate. This has got more dynamic, dynamics in it. This has got the sample changes every 8 notes or every note or every whatever, and that all changed as time goes by. But from the first one, it was still a real piano sound. So what we've got is a real guitar sound. Now, there's many ways that people can approach that, but it doesn't get realer than real. So it's not like someone leapfrogs you to something else, and someone else leapfrogs to there, and someone else leapfrogs to there. We got a real digital guitar sound, a real acoustic guitar sound amplified with dynamics.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things around that you can get a really, really great, in a really good environment, really great pickup sound. As soon as you get on stage, you got to turn it up, you got problems. As soon as you start playing really hard, you got problems. So in the short answer is no, but we're going in a different direction, which you'll see in the future.
No, I can't sleep now. You got me talking about pickups. This is dangerous. I just want to share my thoughts on it. I haven't really made a decision yet, but what I have come to conclude so far is that analog is cool, but digital is cool too. Like when I record the Impulse stuff, it sounds incredible. It sounds not exactly like a mic, but very, very convincing, very much like a microphone. When I play on stage, I don't always want that sound. I want a punchy, instant, in-your-face analog sound. And I find I can get it on the electric, because sometimes we're using in-ears now, and on the electric, you might have the mic on the amp down below the stage or something. With an acoustic, we're not really used to that. We're used to that immediate kind of pickup sound. So I still like the pickup in the acoustic thing. I think it's important. And I don't think I've ever had a body sound like I get from the soundboard, the faceplate kind of sensor. You just get that incredible, if you're doing looping or something, then you need something like that. So I agree with you, and I'm interested to see where it goes, because I'm very impressed with the IR stuff, and I think it's amazing for recording and for the audience. But I think for the performer, the analog thing that you've got there is still cool. And you're saying you might go in yet another direction, so that's very interesting to me.
So we're looking at a couple of years down the track kind of thing. So don't come to us next week for something.
No, I think everyone is. It's just interesting to see where it goes. Will it go impulse responses? Will it go another route? Will there be another thing after impulse responses? I just like to see how the trends go, especially with acoustic guitars. I find it very interesting. But let's talk about the humbucker. That was an interesting idea. So whose idea was that?
Lloyd reckons it was his idea, and I reckon it was my idea. And seeing that I'm standing here, I'll say it's my idea. So what basically happened is that there's many musicians, certainly in Australia and around the world, who put a sound hole pickup in, an acoustic sound hole pickup in, with a second output that goes into guitar amps, a distorted guitar amp, and then they can blend that distortion sound with the acoustic sound. Those pickups aren't very good at that job. They're not designed for that job. They're in the wrong place. Like I played a lot of electric guitar, and played in original bands around Melbourne in the early 80s and stuff. And so I've spent my life playing Les Pauls and Strats and Tellys and all that in a previous life. And being a fairly poor guitarist, I sort of hid in the distortion realm on the bridge pickup, because that's where you mainly live if you're distorting the sound. There are some exceptions to that, but that was my home. I owned it. Malcolm Young had one pickup in his guitar for a reason, because that was the one he used. Yeah. So we'd said, Lloyd and I had said for a long time we'd be at a trade fair somewhere, and we'd be saying, gee, we need to put that pickup in the bridge position. We need to put an actual humbucker in the bridge position. And when we'd spoken about it, some people sort of said, oh, but you can't have a humbucker sitting in an acoustic guitar. It's too crass and brash and in your face and all that. And I said, well, I think you can. I think it makes a statement, and it clearly says what it's about. You look at it from the other end of a shop and you go, I know what that instrument's trying to do. So it was a matter of doing it. And in fact, it was a little bit of a, we have so many R&D plans, so many plans for things. Look, we actually ordered a shipment of Lola pickups from Lola, and for our lapdog lap steel guitar, and we ordered the wrong size. We ordered S spacing, and so I thought, well, let's bring this project forward. And I just sort of thought, for us, it's very simple, because what we didn't cover before is our bracing. So most people follow the Martin method of a big X brace between the sound hole and the bridge, a big forward brace, and then incidental braces around the back. And that can all vary greatly. You can have, more open or more closed, or scalloped or non-scalloped, or forward or back. And there's so many different X brace, but they're X brace. But when we introduced our guitar, we introduced it with a double V brace system. So because the Spanish heel is a neck through instrument. So basically you lay a face, you glue the whole neck to the face, and it's one piece neck that goes from basically the sound hole all the way up. It's a one piece neck. And then you basically glue that to the back, you glue the sides into the neck, you glue the back on. Now, because that's a through neck, we wanted to take the resonance off the neck and run that down the body. So we run a V from the sound hole down to the back of the guitar. And then we run a second V, it's more open than the Taylor V, and that comes down there. And we've been doing this since, we started prototyping guitars in 2001. So, I get people saying, "What do you think of Taylor's V bracing?" You go, "Well, we've kind of been doing it for a long time." It also has a carved top, the guitar, so it's thicker around the middle and thinner around the outside. So it moves where we want it to move, and it's stable where we want it to be stable, and all that. So, and that's on going to school on things like 16th century violins, where they were thicker and modern very expensive violins which are thicker in some areas and thinner in others. So that takes that concept into a guitar. So because the guitar is stable with these two braces, we used to, and about 3 years ago, we introduced a small X that went in between those Vs, and that lifted our bass response and our power enormously, and it really made the acoustic, to me, it was a great advance for us. So that little X that came in a couple of years ago, what we did is basically, we took a humbucker up into the factory, and I went to our guy and said, "Listen, can you just put a slab in there instead of like a piece of wood about that sort of thick? Can we put that in there between the two Vs, and that will mount the pickup. It'll also, in a way, give you a block like in a way like a 335 has a solid center block going up." The version of the 335 without that center block was, screamed like a banshee, and it was, not nearly as good as the 335 for live use. So, at power, in volume. And so that we did all that. Of course, it's a solid top guitar. Of course, it's thicker in that area anyway. And so it's very stable because it's integrally stable. So for someone else to just do an experiment, if you're making guitars in the Martin X-brace way, which is a fine way of making guitars, but you cut a hole in there for a humbucker, your guitar is going to collapse. Yeah. There's no structural bracing to hold it together. So it hasn't been done over the years a lot. Lots of people have sort of tried it, and the guitars have fallen apart, and they've put metal around it to try and keep it, stable and all that, but it hasn't kind of worked. So, but certainly other companies can do it. They just have to re-brace from the start. So, so we did that. We put it in the right place. We plugged it in, and it just worked unbelievably. Yeah. We used the right timbers for it, which is blackwood. Being a solid instrument, as we know, a solid jazz guitar versus a plywood jazz guitar works a lot better, sounds a lot better. Well, it's like this. This sounds incredible. People say, "Wow, it's kind of like a Les Paul or 335," but it sounds incredible. It's not like, oh, it's okay, it's an acoustic guitar. It really, some people are saying, well, I like it better than the 335 sound. Different sound, but and it's like, how's that possible? Well, it's solid there, and you've also got a solid wood instrument, solid top, solid back, solid sides. So it just worked great. So it gives we're able to basically have two separate outputs. We've got a volume and a tone on the face for the humbucker. You've got a Lola Imperial high gain humbucker. It goes to a separate output, and you've still got your normal acoustic pickup. So I can get my normal acoustic plugged in sound that I do on any other Cole Clark. And I can then have the second output to that. And I can go between the two pickups, or have a new sound, which is basically both at the same time. It works great.
Awesome.
It's been a very successful product.
It brings up some questions. First of all, that's great that you put it in the bridge position, because I've tried guitars in the past, I won't mention any names, that put it in the neck position. And my first thought is, well, why would you do that? Because when I use the humbucker in the acoustic, I want it in the bridge position. So that was just very sensible. So thanks for doing that. So how does it affect the build of the guitar? Is it any heavier or sound any different unplugged to the guitars that don't have the humbuckers? Does it make any difference in that respect?
Of course, yes. It is slightly heavier. It's got the block of wood. It's got the humbucker itself. It's got the knobs. It is heavier. It's quieter. It doesn't sound as good acoustically. But as I said when we first launched it, I'm just waiting for that person to say, but it doesn't sound very good acoustically. And at which point you say, why would you buy a guitar with a humbucker on to compare with your D28?
Right. I get that all the time. I reviewed the Fender Acoustasonic, and someone said they don't sound good unplugged. And I said, well, they're designed for stage. So this guitar with the humbucker is even more of a stage guitar, right? It's just
Absolutely.
It's got 4 pickups in it. It's got all that variety of sound. You can split the output. Again, great move on that. Splitting the output is genius, because you want them, you put one into a Kemper or an amp, and you put the other one into a acoustic amp. And also, I didn't realize you're using those pickups. Those pickups, I've got one of those in my Fender Telecaster. They're good pickups, right? The Lolas.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Good quality stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you offer 2 body shapes, the Angel and the Fat Lady, right? And Blackwood.
Yeah.
What's the reason for using Blackwood only for this model?
So when we introduced all Blackwood guitars in 2015, and being a student of history with guitars, it was 100 years that Martin had made all Koa guitars, and I thought, well, they've been making all Koa guitars for 100 years. Why wouldn't we make an all Blackwood guitar? So for people out there, Blackwood and Koa are like one genetic sequence different. So they look very similar. If they're grown in the same growing environment, you can't tell them apart. So sometimes you'll see a Blackwood and you'll swear it's Koa, and vice versa. So very close timbers. So we bought that in and thought, oh, that'll be nice. They look good. They sound interesting. The rest is history. In actual fact, what happened is that they're a bit stiffer. Blackwood's denser, like Koa's denser, and there's this quirky thing, and I'm not sure why it happens, but things that are less open. Sorry, that's my cat at the door.
I was about to say, is that your cat or mine? We got 2 cats, and I thought it was my cat outside wanting to be fed.
That's right.
Yours want breakfast, and ours want dinner.
That's right, exactly. So there's this quirky thing that guitars that are denser sound better plugged in. So, for example, if you've got a Taylor or a Martin, and you've got a rosewood, spruce rosewood Taylor or Martin, and you play it, it sounds great acoustically. You plug it in, it's a bit woolly and it doesn't amplify as well. Whereas you get a maple back and sides, it's not as good acoustically. It's not as open. It's a bit dull sounding kind of thing. US maple back and sides. You plug it in, and it gives you a much better amplified sound. It's just a quirk of nature. An Ovation is not a big, lovely, round acoustic guitar. Plugged in, it's a good guitar. Yeah, Takamines are really good plugged in. They're quite heavily engineered. So they're not what you'd buy for your best acoustic guitar at home. So guitars that are plugged in tend to be stiffer. So in actual fact, what happened is, because we've got, so on one spectrum, we've got, redwood tops, California redwood tops, which are really open and vibrant and move a lot, sound great acoustically. I've got my personal one up there, which is just a straight acoustic guitar. Sounds great. If you want to plug in, though, redwood doesn't sound as good. It's a bit mushy when you hit it hard. It doesn't have the dynamic response. Whereas the blackwood, you can whack it hard and it'll really come out. So we found that amplified, it was our best guitar, and then for the last 3-4 years, it's actually been our number one sell guitar. Full stop. We do sell more blackwood top guitars than any other guitar.
Why is that? Because people are predominantly buying these for stage, do you think? Is there a reason?
It's both. I get a lot of people also who go, look, I really like the acoustic sound, and it looks great in my lounge room. I love the look of it. I love that earthy, natural sort of feel. But certainly amplified is, a lot of people buy I think proportionally more people would buy our brand for the pickup than for the amplified sound than they would buy other brands.
Yeah, actually, Scott Martin, I want to give him a shout out. Scott Martin is here. He's on the Acoustic Guitar Forum, so he's seen me talk about this stuff on the Acoustic Guitar Forum, and he actually did this very thing. He went and bought a Cole Clark. He's actually got a few of them now because he wanted a stage guitar. So he said, since finding the Cole Clark, I've stopped searching for great amplified tone. Love them. You can put these on your website. I'll give them to you for free. He also said, earlier on, he said, hi, Aaron. Hi, Miles. Scott Martin from New Hampshire, rocking 3 Cole Clark guitars, the Fat Lady 2, the Angel 2, and the Little Lady 2, all in blackwood over blackwood. There you go. So that proves your point. That proves your point. Now, the Little Lady is a bit lesser known. It's like your smaller body guitar. Was that introduced by yourself, or was that one there from the beginning? I'm not familiar with that model.
Yeah, so we introduced that in 2017.
Okay, fairly new.
So quite new. We were prototyping it from 2015. So it's a different concept guitar where it's a 23.5 inch scale, so same sort of scale as a Martin. As a Taylor Mini GS or a Mini Martin or a Mini Maton. And so it's that scale length, but it seemed that to me at the time that everybody was fighting to get the smallest possible body involved. And we sort of thought, well, let's go the other way. Let's have it the right length to get in an overhead compartment on a plane, but let's have the body bigger. You can still get it, you can still travel with it, but let's have the body bigger so it's louder, and also it'll amplify great as well. And the other thing about it is that when you sit down and play it, your arm rests properly, so it feels like you're playing, a bigger acoustic guitar, a real acoustic guitar. And whereas a small body, you're sort of resting on your wrist here, you sort of, it doesn't feel quite right. So, so that was the concept behind that. I also, I remember going to a Frankfurt show years ago, and back in the probably 2013 or something, and I'm walking around the show and I sort of went, gee, everybody has basically got Martin-shaped guitars, and it's dreadnoughts, there's OMs, there's Grand Auditoriums, there's all these are grand guitars. So as innovative as we all are, we use these shapes. And I came back to us, and we really are innovative. I mean, with carved top, Spanish heel, double V bracing, pickup. I mean, so innovative.
Yeah.
Using Martin shapes. And I went, right. Next guitar we bring out should be totally different. Just let's do that. So it is a very different guitar. It looks great when you're playing it. It looks odd on a wall. but it's a fantastic guitar when you play it. We had a humbucker in Little Lady Blackwood at Winter NAMM. Sounded incredible.
Oh yeah.
And it was the favourite of the artists on the stage who were playing them all the time. They just loved it. Just killed it.
Is that going to be a future model then? Can people buy those?
Yeah, they can buy those. That became a model at that point. So,
interesting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we just don't have stock of things. A distributor or a retailer needs to order it, and we make it. We're kind of at the moment, if somebody just orders a normal guitar today, it'll be delivered August, September. So it's not like we've got 10 of them sitting in stock that we can send out for a dealer so he can get his head around it and we can show dealers. We just don't have that. So it's been lost in that thing a little bit, but we've got a few on order. We just need to make them.
So you do make guitars without electronics?
Yes.
You do? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your most popular, biggest selling model?
The all Blackwood Fat Lady.
Okay. So that brings me to a question then. So I'm thinking, okay, great stage guitar, I'm going to plug in. I'm 6'5", so I usually play bigger guitars because I used to play Mini Maton for many years and people used to laugh about it. Although that was cool because it gives you a selling point. But for anyone that's watching that wants to buy one of these, how much does the body shape affect the plugged-in sound? Like, I mean, I imagine if you want a stage guitar, I'm thinking you'd go with the Angel, with the Humbucker, all the pickups, and it'd be a bit lighter and smaller than the Dreadnought. Is there a reason to choose the Dread over the Angel if you're mostly plugging in? Does that affect the plugged-in tone in your opinion?
Okay, so for a start, the second biggest selling guitar is the Angel All Blackwood, and in general, about 50% of our sales are Dreadnought, about 5% are maybe a bit more are Little Ladies, and then 45% is Angel. So that's a very rough breakup. So we're actually in front in Fat Lady, whereas a Dreadnought guitar. So whereas most manufacturers, I think these days, are probably higher Angel, like Grand Auditorium sales over a bigger guitar, I think. But I don't have conversations about people's sales ratios with other companies. So, but that's my feeling. So the face sensor, one of the things about it is it picks up the actual sound of that guitar. So largely speaking, if you've got a piezo in another brand guitar, and then that piezo system will sound the same no matter what woods you use, and you can just order whatever woods you personally like, the feel of, the touch, the whatever, and it's going to sound pretty much the same. Well, the face sensor picks up the sound of that actual guitar. So a Redwood amplified sounds totally different to a Blackwood amplified. Now I've concentrated on the Blackwood here, but the Redwood, if you're a softer player or a finger picker, then the Redwood's got more sparkle amplified. So that's the amplifying dilemma. So if you're a hard player, big strummer, dig in, you want Blackwood. If you want the other way, if you're a picker, soft player, noodler, then you want Redwood. What's in between? Bunya. That's what's in between.
I'm not familiar with these woods, but I did notice I played my first cedar guitar from NAMM. And I notice when I really dig in, it kind of compresses and distorts, not in a bad way. I kind of like it. It's kind of cool. It kind of sounds like a compressor's kicking in. But yeah, if you're really laying into guitars like I do, I guess the Blackwood would give you the most headroom, right? And also it won't wear through the wood as fast either. That's an issue for some people.
Yeah. So so Redwood is Californian Redwood, actually big tree Redwood, grown in Australia. One-off ornamental trees. We do a lot of milling ourselves. So about 30% of our timbers is urban recovery timber, where we get arborists will drop a tree into us. We hire a log truck, get it in, and then we'll mill it on site. We've got a portable mill called a Lucas mill, and we've been doing this for a number of years now. And as I say, about 30% of our timbers are like that. So the Redwood is very it's in the same family as cedar, so it's kind of in that type of realm. and Bunya's pretty much sort of like spruce. It's Australian. That's like spruce, and then Blackwood's like koa, as I say. So
the look is very interesting. I'm looking at that guitar behind you. It's very striking in the visuals. Like, do you have a team that develop those looks, or who decides what they look like?
Okay, so I think, and this is not a good or a bad thing. This is just the way we've developed. Many companies are run by engineers who are great at engineering guitars, and they're good guitarists, and they're into it. I spent my life in retail, so I've got a fairly good idea of what's going to sell. Like, I looked at that humbucker and said, yeah, that'll sell, no problem. And how to position it and how to do that. Whereas I think a lot of manufacturers might have looked at it and gone, oh, I don't know where to go with this kind of thing. So with the woods on that, it happened sort of by accident, but a really good accident, where our people who were classifying our wood back in the 2015 or so, they were trying to get very clean timbers, like very low grain, clean timbers for our upper end guitars. And I said, you've got this wrong. It needs to be, wild, some sapwood there, some, big globules of things happening, and of course, what I was talking about was the back of the guitar. I wasn't talking about the front. So our head guy, factory guy, went away, and he came back and he said something like this, and he'd done it on the face. And I said, no one ever has it on the face. What do you? And I've gone, but hang on a second, that looks great. And then so the white stripe is sapwood. So it's the outer side part of the tree. The density, we've done all these tests where we have probes on a guitar, and we bring up to string tension and see how much the top lifts. And we've compared with sapwood, with no sapwood, with wide grain, close grain, because there's all this stuff. Oh, you've got to have this many grain lines per inch and all that. There is no difference at the level of bringing, 87 kilos or 83 kilos or whatever it is up to tension. There is no difference in lift between any of those. And we were totally surprised. Wasn't we all looking for? We weren't looking for anything, but not what we were expecting at all. We thought there'll be a little bit more lift from the sapwood because it's a tiny bit less dense theoretically. But yeah, so it's stable. It's good. It looks great. So I took it to a very conservative Martin dealer in Melbourne and said, what do you think of this? And one guy said, well, you can't have sapwood on a face. Fair enough. And the other three guys go, but it looks great. And then they Facebooked it, and it was sold in minutes.
Wow.
And now I do enjoy myself because I now see sapwood in guitars from other large companies quite often, and it's a bit like the tail wagging the dog to me. So that's how it came about. It's a look. It sounds great. And look, we do as many without a sapline as with a sapline. Some people go, well, I don't like sapline. Great, buy this one. I like sapline. Great, buy that one.
Yeah, you have several different options. You have some that are a bit more kind of classic uniform looking, and some that are very like almost Art Deco, right? Very striking, like that one behind you. It's cool though. I like it. And again, yeah, why not have all different ones with different customers, right? I get it. Yeah. Let's go to the chat. You've got a lot of loyal customers here today. Chris Decker said, Miles mentioned that you can hit it hard. That's one of the things I love about my two Cole Clarks. You can play them as hard as you want, and the sound remains punchy and clear. Scott says, yeah, I said that one. Since finding the guitars, that's all. He's very happy with the tone. Jack says, Koa is really bright, in my opinion, like maple. And they're talking to each other here. The Angel 2 is great. The lighter build and larger sound hole is quite resonant as compared to the heavier Fat Lady 2. If I'm heavy strumming, I use the Fat Lady Angel for fingerstyle. Okay. And
well, the Fat Lady will sound bigger because it's a bigger thing.
Yeah.
And it's got more, volume in the body. and the face sensor will pick that up. So it will, it is a slightly bigger sounding guitar, not better.
Yeah.
And not, some people will say, well, I like the Angel slightly better, which is still huge. And the difference I'm talking about is minuscule. So I would probably advise people to buy what they're comfortable with, because the sound's going to be fairly close.
Yeah, that's a good point, though, because you're right. Undersaddle pickups just sound the same in any guitar. But the faceplate is actually picking up the face of the guitar, the top of the guitar, and that's where a lot of the sound is coming from. That's why people like the sound of the K&K. So that makes sense, totally. And you've got 3 pickups there. I guess my question was, how different do they sound? Because maybe the Dreadnought has too much low end, and you're going to cut it out anyway. But you're saying that they sound very unique. So I feel like a lot of stage players would want the smaller body just for comfort. That's just my...
Yeah, look, it's interesting. The Spanish heel fixes that bottom end. So it gets rid of like a big Martin D28, D18's got a lovely rumble in the bottom end acoustically. It's got that sort of, as you were saying before, kind of almost distortion when you play hard. It's got that rumble. Well, the Spanish heel doesn't. It's not. This is not better or worse. It just doesn't.
Okay.
If you say what's the difference in the sounds, that bottom end is different. It's a huge bottom end, but it's clean, super clean. That's what the Spanish heel does. So now when you amplify that, you don't get that rumble. So that what you're talking about is having a big body with a piezo pickup in it from another manufacturer, and you're strumming hard, and that's got that rumble that's coming from that neck joint, and it's not quite doing it for you. Whereas ours is getting it, and it's super clean in that bottom end, big but clean. So it's sort of hard. You need to play them, and you'll get what I mean.
The other thing that's really cool about your 3-way system is that you can unplug it and it doesn't pop, right?
Yes.
Is that like a patent thing? I've never seen that on any other system.
No, it's a very, very simple thing that anybody could do. It's just a little capacitor or something. I'm not an electronic genius, but it just basically disconnects the battery a fraction on the pull out, so that it's not going pop with the battery. It's just disconnecting it slightly before and as it comes out.
Yeah.
So
it's just very obvious, and
it is good when Lloyd talks about having fun with his sound engineers, where he'll have someone, thank you, and just pull out the lead, and the sound engineers, the front of house guys going, no!
I remember I tried one, and the guy said you can do that, and I just didn't want to do it because I'm so used to that happening. I'm like, no, I can't. You have to get used to that, actually be able to do that. That's a great thing, though. Again, it just points to the fact that everything about the guitar is for the stage. It's great. I want to say thanks to Lloyd, by the way, because he helped to set this up. And when did Lloyd come? I mean, Lloyd seems to be very integral to the company. When did he join the company?
Well, he. So we're talking about Lloyd Spiegel for people out there. So he's actually Australia's #1 blues player. Has won so many awards. Australian Blues Awards for a long time. He does a lot of touring overseas. So he's a very successful blues player. I don't know how many albums he's up to now, 5, 6, 7 albums or something, and they're great. So Lloyd's but he's the person who we who's our sounding board. Like, it's what do you think of this? I think it's crap. Okay, back to the drawing board. And he plays incredibly hard. So there's a lot of really nice acoustics out there that he couldn't play because they fall apart. They and they compress and just not sound kind of right. So that's he from the beginning, which was about 2004 or 3. I can't remember. We were doing this timeline the other day on our history, and we figured out when it all was. But yeah, he came on board as an advisor, and then started to go to trade shows with us as a demonstrator, and now about 5 years ago sort of took over the running of our social media side of things. So he kind of runs Facebook, a lot of it, and the website. So right now he's off the road, and he's sitting in the office, getting working on social media and our website and everything, which is great. So we've really come up to speed there. And he's a shareholder of the company, actually. Oh. So he's a really integral part of the company. And he's I like to say he's the musician checkpoint. This is about musicians. It's about music being played on stage. Yeah. It's not about a retailer saying this will sell. Yeah. It's ultimately about getting on stage. We will sell it if we can, if it's good there. So he's that checkpoint to make sure that our message is right and that we are talking to musicians about being musicians.
Of course, that's the most important thing, isn't it? That's why I made this channel to address the things that musicians say. And like when you take the gear to the gig, how is it in that bar? How is it in that restaurant? Does it translate? A lot of things sound great recorded through YouTube, but how does it sound in the room? And how do you feel like? Do you feel like it inspires you to perform? You have several famous players, though. I know I always associate Jack Johnson with Cole Clark. You got Snow Patrol, Ben Harper. Do any of those kind of artists give you feedback? Anyone there kind of involved in R&D or?
Not really. Most artists just want to play the guitar. They don't necessarily want to be poster boys. They just want to, they love the sound, what it does for them plugged in. Like Jack, tours with 8 Cole Clarks, and
oh wow,
and he big road case, and he just loves the plugged in sound, and it works for him. It's that people who are Jack Johnson fans, and they want to sound like Jack Johnson, they buy a Cole Clark because it's quite obvious once you hear a Cole Clark. Most artists want to be artists. They don't want to be involved in the other side of it. Lloyd, because he's such a great player and such an intense player, and plays so hard and fast, that kind of if it works for him, it's going to work for just about anybody else. Yeah. So that's. Most artists just want to play it. And I
heard sometimes it's the sound engineer. Those guys that will come to you and say, "Oh, we're having trouble with it," because they're the ones that are dialing in the sound, right? So they're the ones that have a lot of thoughts on stuff too. Chris said, "How did Jack Johnson come to start playing the guitars? Do you know how he first discovered them? Like, did they approach him? Did he find them? Do you know the story there?"
Look, my memory of that is that he was doing a little bit of stuff with Mayton in the very, very early days. Brad had met him through there, and then when we came out with an acoustic, Brad put one in his hand and he said, "Oh, this is great. The pickup, the way that sounds on stage is second to none. This is me. This is my signature sound now." And that's how that happened. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to start wrapping up. I wanted to say to you've got some very loyal customers here, which is great. So guys, and girls, thanks for joining us. And if you have any last questions, please ask them right now, because I'm going to start wrapping up soon. So a question, of course, I would come to now is, you've mentioned a bit about what the future is, but what's next? I mean, how is business going, and what's your plans for the future going forward?
Well, okay, so for people who are in the US who don't necessarily know what's happening outside the US, Australia's really dodged a bullet with the coronavirus pandemic. So we've got around 100 deaths in Australia, and we've got a very low infection rate. We are an island surrounded by big oceans. We are not very densely populated. Having said that, our cities are fairly densely populated, but not like a lot of other cities. So we all went to lockdown quite early. we're a wealthy enough country to be able to have some very good programs around that. So having said all that, the business kept operating. So the factory kept operating. So we haven't missed a beat there. We launched with Korg USA distribution in the US a few years ago, and more recently with Guitar, Andertons, and PMT, the Gap Group in the UK, which is as a direct supply line to them. And our Ishibashi in Japan is another huge one. So they are big ones, and they do hundreds and hundreds of guitars. Now, since that all happened, we've been on continual back order. The idea is that we have guitars in stock, someone orders them, they go out. And that would have been normal. We would normally have 500 or 600 guitars in stock. Right now, we've got none. We've had none for a year and a half to 2 years. If someone orders a basic Blackwood, it's going to come through the factory in August or September. We are just so far behind all the time now. So we've been working on trying to get our production up, and with some success. We've put on 5 or 6 people in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we're in an expansion mode. The Australian market's been very, very good. The shops are closed, but they're doing internet business, and a lot of people are sitting at home with not a lot to do. They're in lockdown, so they're saying, "I always wanted to play guitar, and I played guitar back in university. I'm going to have myself a good guitar though," and and all of that. So we're that's where Cole Clark is. So we're very lucky here because some of our counterparts in the US have had to close. We're very lucky.
Actually, I haven't mentioned the factory or the employees. Can you just tell us where the factory is and how many employees work there? And how many guitars do you make a year?
Yeah, so the factory is in Bayswater, which is a suburb of Melbourne, near at the foot of the hills. There's very low hills around Melbourne, we've got 40 people in the factory. So it's I don't know if it's big business, small business, small to medium, we're making around about 3,000 guitars. We're probably capable of, out of that premises, of making more like 6,000 to 8,000 guitars. But when we get there, we'll know.
Chris said, "You don't see many gloss tops. Does the gloss impact the sound, or is it more of an aesthetic choice?"
All of the above. The gloss is usually somewhere between 8 and 12 coats. It's thicker and it impacts the sound. What we do is nitro. We do nitro satin, which is 3 coats, 3 sealer coats, 2 top coats, and it's quite simple. It's a good, fairly robust. But it allows the speak, but it's very thin coating and allows the guitar to speak. So also gloss is very, very time consuming, and so accordingly it's very expensive. So we just opted. We were doing it as an option for a little bit, and it's just so difficult to do it in nitro. That we just went, no, we're not going to do this, and we stopped that. So we just don't. We've had dealers, distributors say, "Oh, in our market, gloss sells very well. Can you make some gloss for us?" And we've made them, and then they've come back and said, "Yeah, they don't sell, do they? People who want Cole Clark want satin." We go, "Yeah, that's right." So
I like gloss, but what I found was, again, when you have the face sensor type pickups, if it's satin, then you can kind of rub. If you do a lot of looping, you can get like a. So again, it just seems to me that everything about those guitars again is so ideal for the loopers, the stage performers, everything about it. I guess the other side of that is you got to be careful because the whole guitar is could be noisy, and you got to be kind of careful how you play it. But if you make that a part of the act, it can be really powerful. You can drum, you can loop that, you can play electric over it, split the sounds. And I'm always looking for ways to be a bigger sound. Like I want to sound like, I don't like to say one man band, but I want a big sound on stage. So it gives you all those options. So it makes sense to me. Do you offer any guitars with gloss, or did you ever?
We did, but we stopped about 3 years ago.
Okay.
To slows us down too much. Yeah, it's interesting that the last thing on the humbucker is a great sound is the acoustic plugged in sound with a bit of crunch in the background. Yeah. It's just an awesome. That's that huge sound that some people go, well, I don't play electric guitar and everything, but then they go, but I played one of these, and then I ended up buying it because when I'm on stage, I get to that, the second or third set of the night, and I just want to go a little bit harder, and I just had that in the background, and it just gives me more punch and power. You
can use it like a pad. So you've got your strumming, but that distortion sounds in the background, so it's almost like a keyboard or something, and it just adds another layer of depth and just a huge. I mean, with your pickup, I haven't tried that yet, but with that pickup system, the 3-way, and then that in the background, it must just be a huge sound, right? Yeah. And that's what you want. So I want to say thank you. Now, I always say thank you to companies that are thinking about the performers and the musicians like me that do the one-man band thing and want to just sound big on stage. Companies like TC Helicon and you guys, you're thinking about those artists, and I really appreciate that because not many companies are focused on that area of the market, the pickups, the stage sound. So thank you for doing that. This has been great. I want to say thank you so much for your time, Miles. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that joined us in the chat. You've got some very loyal fans, it seems, and I'm glad they were here. It's awesome. They're always a nice thing to have them in the chat asking questions as well and joining in. So to those guys and girls, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and share with your friends. I'd really appreciate it. For anyone new to Cole Clark Guitars that wants to find out more, where can they go, Miles?
We'll go to our website, and that's got contact emails and all of that. But find a retailer. We've got all the retailers in most countries listed on the website, so you can find someone to go and talk to. It's really a matter of getting your hands on one, if you're not aware of it. Try and play one. Plug it in. Don't just walk in a shop and play it. Plug it in.
Who are your dealers in the USA? The main ones?
We've got 65 outlets. So, there's people like Gruens, and there's people, there's all sorts of different retailers. We're not with any of the big chains, although we are on their web business. We're involved in their web businesses, so we're not. But so it's independents. But go to the list, find your local dealer.
Yeah. Awesome. Jack said, I'll leave with this comment. Jack the Rabbit. Thanks, Miles Jackson. Thanks, Miles and Aaron. Anyone new to Cole Clark should just get one. LOL. There you go. No, I'm not. Thank you for doing the whole stage thing. I really appreciate it. It's great for musicians like me, and I know some of the guys in the chat are doing the one-man band thing too. And it's just awesome when you can get on the stage and rely on your sound and sound big. That's a nice thing. And I look forward to seeing what you do in the future because you gave that teaser. You gave that teaser earlier on. So Miles, just hang on the line. I'm going to say goodbye to you when I hang up the stream. But everyone watching, thank you so much. Tune in next time. I'll see you soon with more interviews and performances and reviews, and I'll see you then. So have a great night, everyone, or daytime if you're in Australia. Later, guys. Thank you so much.